Hey guys, okay, so a couple of you had expressed some confusion about how to draft the employment contract. That was the week two drafting assignment, okay? So, what I thought I would do is create this recording. If I need to do a second one, I will, because I only get 15 minutes free through this app where it's basically recording my voice and showing you my screen as I'm going to try to walk you through how to do this. I'm not going to fully give you all the answers, but I'm going to try to give you a good visual explanation as well as a verbal explanation kind of as I'm going through it. So, what I have here on the screen. So, first, right here in this Word document is I've just literally copied pasted right out of Blackboard the example, the assignment of what you need to put into a contract, basically the fact pattern. And then here I have one of the sample employment agreements, and then right over here I have the other sample employment contract agreement. Okay, so I'm going to kind of bounce between these and explain kind of what we're doing here, okay, or what I'm expecting of you. So, overall, bottom line is what you are doing no different than if in the real world you were a paralegal and your boss, your supervising attorney, asked you to draft a contract based on notes or other information contained in a case file of a client, and you need to put together a contract that needs to be signed by the relevant parties. So, what I have given you here in the assignment is the fact pattern that applies to what's going on here. So the background is obviously that this all you can eat ice cream company, it's a partnership. They want to hire a manager. And what you're doing is you're drafting the employment agreement that is going to exist between all you can eat ice cream as the employer and Miss Applegate, who all you can eat ice cream has decided they want to hire to fill their management role. Okay, they want her to take on the position of business operations manager. That's what they want to employ her as, right? So basically, this first part is just some background of why they think that she'd be great for the job. And then, as I've provided in here in the second paragraph, these are all the facts that you need to know to be able to put together this employment contract. It doesn't need to be incredibly long. It doesn't need to be, crazy. It's not crazy confusing, but I understand why you might be slightly confused. So hopefully this will help a little bit. So what you want to do, well, let me back up. There's no one exact way of drafting a contract or an agreement that makes it absolutely correct. Certain phrasing might be a little different. Different paragraphs might be in a slightly different order, but the overall goal is that you want the contract to contain all of the relevant terms and provisions that the parties have agreed to. And oftentimes, certain terms and provisions in contracts are standard. They have a standard way of being written, a standard way of being said that makes them enforceable. And so there's no need to reinvent the wheel and create these provisions from absolute scratch. You can use information contained in templates or prior contracts to inform and be a basis for how you're going to write the contract that's applicable to the particular situation or circumstance or client. So, here, what you want to do is you're going to take a look at this fact pattern, and then you're going to use the two employment sample contracts that I gave you as guides. So let's start here. So when you'd open a blank Word document, and you would write right at the top, you always want to title your agreement. You could title it employment agreement, you could title it contract for employment, you could title it employee agreement. Basically, one of those three things would be accurate, okay? And then what you would do is you would follow this template here. You could say something along the lines of, this agreement is made on this day. You would put the date you're drafting the agreement, the date you wanted it to be effective. So today's date is, I believe today's the 26th. So if you were drafting it today, you would write the 26th day of May, 2021. And then you would write the applicable people, right? All you can eat ice cream, a a Florida general partnership. You should not be referring to any Ohio corporation of Toledo. That is irrelevant, right? This employment agreement is just a sample. You need to remove information that is not accurate to your client and or the fact pattern that you're drafting the contract for, and make it applicable to the relevant parties. Okay, so you should not be referring to an Ohio corporation or of Toledo or anything like that. Rather, it should be between All You Can Eat Ice Cream, a Florida general partnership of Ocala, Florida, right? And that's right there in the facts, right? It's all contained in the facts between this assignment. And then remember, you knew that from the assignment we did last week when we did the ownership agreement of All You Can Eat Ice Cream. So you would adopt that information right in there. So between All You Can Eat Ice Cream, a Florida general partnership of Ocala, Florida, hereinafter referred to as employer, right? Because they are the employer under these facts, and Jill Applegate of, not Toledo, Ohio. She's not from Toledo, Ohio. She's from Ocala, Florida, right? That's up here also in the fact patterns, right? So you would say, and Jill Applegate of Ocala, Florida, hereinafter employee, right? Then that's fine. You can write witnesseth. This is standard contract terminology. And then you would write whereas, and you'd be typing this up in your Word document. Whereas employee has recently been hired as, what's she been hired as? They want to hire her as the business operations manager. And you could phrase it as has recently been hired as, or will be hired as, right? Because this is going to be occurring. Either one is fine. And so she's going to be hired as the business operations manager of employer, right? So, and when it says hereinafter referred to as employer up here, you're never going to refer to All You Can Eat Ice Cream again. You're never going to refer to Miss Applegate by name again. You're going to refer to those parties as employer and employee throughout the rest of this contract. So employee has recently been hired as business operations manager of employer in consideration of, and it should not say his, right? You're going to write her agreeing to enter into this employment agreement with employer, because Jill Applegate is a female, right? I referred to her as a female in the fact pattern. I used her as a pronoun, right? So you're going to make that accurate in your contract as well. And then you would continue down here. You could write whereas employee will of necessity during her employment become acquainted with employer's customs, sources of supply, other employees, and all other facets of employer's business. That's absolutely correct. That's good language to include in the contract and is relevant and would apply here, right? Now, therefore, in consideration, here's your consideration clause. This is absolutely appropriate to contain in your contract that you're writing. You can copy this language verbatim, other than, of course, correcting him should be her. You're going to make it the correct pronoun for the facts that apply. And then you're going to go, you can include all of that in your Word document. And again, that's not plagiarism. That is simply using proper legal terms and phrases. In the law, we oftentimes do not invent the wheel. We just tweak it to make it match our client's needs, okay? Here, it's drafting a specific employment contract. And so then you would go down and you could start your first paragraph. You could make it similar to this based on these facts, right? So we're going to look at these facts and start to compare it to what information is contained in this sample paragraph. We're likely not going to need all of it based on the fact pattern, but we may need some of it. And this is where that adjustment gets made. So you would want to discuss that employer is going to or employee's employee for whatever period of time. You should look at the fact pattern, right? Here it's going to be an initial period of 2 years. Commencing, it would be this date, right? The day it would be today's date, because that's the day you're saying this contract is going to be agreed upon, where these parties are going to sign it. And then an ending, it says it's supposed to be for 2 years. So you would put the date 2 years from today, all right? You don't need me to tell you what that is. You can do that. Unless you would write her, not his, employment is sooner terminated pursuant to the provisions hereof. That just means based on anything else contained in this contract, okay? And then you want to stop there. You should not be including the rest of this information because I told you in the fact pattern that Miss Applegate was not going to have any other interest in the company, all right? That she wasn't going to be elected to any office or hold any other position in the company. That's also contained here in the fact pattern. I think it's right here. Miss Applegate will hold no other title or interest in the company other than business operations manager, right? So you shouldn't be including any of that stuff. That's a good example where you would leave that out of the contract you were writing, okay? However, I gave you some additional information in the fact pattern that said that the parties have the option right here, they have the option to extend the at-will employment relationship to a period of indefinite duration upon the completion of the 2 years. So those are additional facts that are different than this sample, but what I told you the parties want in their contract. So you, in drafting that contract, need to add those in, and you would add those in right after the provisions hereof, right? You're going to delete the stuff that doesn't matter or not include it in your Word document of what you're drafting, and instead include the relevant facts that I gave you that would be relevant to the length of the employment, right? So that would be your first paragraph. Then you would be using this template to go down to your second paragraph. This is all good and relevant. This is good contract language that you want to include. Employee shall devote, but you're going to write her entire business time, attention and skill, reasonable vacations and unforeseen illnesses accepted, right? So she can go on vacation, she can get sick, that's okay. But in general, she's going to work and devote her time and skill to developing and increasing the business of employer in the sale. You're going to take out leasing, right? Because in the fact pattern, it says she's going to be in charge of selling ice cream and taking purchase orders for the company of its products, and shall perform, again, her duties to the best of her ability and in a reasonably efficient and satisfactory manner, right? This last part here, you're going to take out because well, I mean, I guess I should say you could leave it in. That's fair. You could leave that in, or you could take it out. It's really, it wouldn't really make much of a difference here because, well, technically this is more of a legal thing, but technically a partnership doesn't have a board of directors. So that's why I would not include it in this. But if you were to include it, I wouldn't necessarily take points off, but because that's a legal distinction and not my ultimate goal of practicing your drafting here. But you get the point. And that would be sufficient to include as your kind of second paragraph, okay? Then you'd want to go to your third paragraph, and you could title it compensation, okay? And why would we do that? Well, we've got another another sample contract over here where it talks about compensation, right? And sometimes it's helpful to title your paragraph so when you look at things quickly, people know what paragraphs and each contract of what paragraphs of the contract apply to basically what topics. Kind of at a quick glance, you can see it. Again, it's not required in this contract that I'm showing you right now. There are titles to the paragraphs. In this one, there are not. Again, that's a perfect example of there's no one right or wrong way to do something. However, you can combine and take ideas from different samples and make them as relevant and pertinent to what you're trying to draft. So your next paragraph, just going here off of the fact pattern, is in the fact pattern I gave you information about. The next kind of paragraph is about her salary. And again, you don't have to draft the contract in the exact order I wrote the fact pattern, but you just want to make sure you include all the facts. So I talked to you guys about her salary. So what you could do is maybe title your next paragraph 3, compensation, and use some of this similar language as well as combining it with this language over here to talk about that she is going to have, according to the salary, just bouncing back to the facts, she's going to have her salary in the first year of employment, $80,000, and increase to $85,000 in the second year of employment. And there's no other compensation or salary incentive requirements, and she will hold no other title or interest in the company other than business operations manager. That would be in your compensation paragraph. I'm going to stop here and start a new recording. Bear with me and go to recording 2.